Fight fans, welcome to the PBC Podcast, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions with your host, Kenneth Bouhairie and Michael Rosenthal.
Welcome, everyone, to the PBC Podcast. I'm Kenneth Bouhairie.
And I'm Michael Rosenthal, editor of USA Today's Boxing Junkie.
Thanks, as always, for tuning in. This week, we've got the Bronze Bomber joining us. Former WBC World Heavyweight Champion Deontay Wilder is back. You don't want to miss what he has to say. Also, Mike and I will break down all the fight action on Saturday night. And in this week's toe-to-toe segment, we'll list our top 5 heavyweight bouts of the 21st century. But first, Mike, we heard the big news. The aforementioned Wilder taking on heavyweight Robert Helenius Saturday, October 15th in a Fox Sports pay-per-view from Barclays Center in Brooklyn. What are your initial thoughts on this matchup?
Well, first of all, I'm just happy to have Wilder back in the ring. You can say whatever you want about him, about his ability or whatever you want to say. But the fact is he's really fun to watch because you're pretty sure you're going to get a spectacular knockout at some point, and that's what fans love. So he delivers pretty much every time he fights. So I'm just excited about him fighting at all. And the fact he's fighting Helenius, who I think is also an entertaining fighter, kind of a comfort, knockout-minded guy himself. You just know we're going to get this crazy fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of ability, I mean, the man had a title reign that included 10 world title defenses. I'm talking about right. Deontay Wilder. So he's had a brilliant career so far. And I love the co-feature here. 2 former super middleweight champions squaring off, Caleb Plant versus Anthony Dirrell. I can't wait for the buildup for this fight. I know these guys have had some words in recent years, recent months, and so forth. So a little bit of bad blood there. What's your take on this bout?
I really like it. I think it's a test for Caleb Plant. Maybe I'm saying something that's obvious. I have a lot of respect for Anthony Dirrell, even at this stage of his career. So I think that it's a good competitive matchup, and I think we're going to get an even better idea of what Plant has.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is do or die for both guys. I love this fight. I feel like it's a main event in and of itself. So glad to see it on this card. And with that, let's jump into another card with the PBC Fight of the Week. This Saturday, August 20th, former champs collide as Omar Figueroa faces Sergey Lipinets in a WBC 140-pound world title eliminator on Showtime. Action, of course, on the network begins at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and we begin here with the essentials.
Okay, here we go once again. Figueroa, 28-2-1, 19 knockouts. Lipinets, 16-2-1 with 12 KOs. Figueroa is 3-2 in his last 5 with 1 knockout. Lipinets, 3-1-1 with 2 KOs. Last fight for Figueroa, Abel Ramos knocked him out in round 6 on May 1st of last year. Lipinets just got steamrolled by the great Jaron Ennis, KO 6, April 10th of last year. Figueroa has a 61% knockout ratio, Lipinets 63. Figueroa's fought 154 rounds, Lipinets 141. Figueroa's 32, Lipinets 33. Figueroa turned pro in 2008. Lipinets 2014. They both fight from an orthodox stance. The dimensions are similar. Figueroa's 5'7.5", Lipinets 5'7". Figueroa's reach is 73. Actually, he's got a reach advantage. Lipinets' reach is 67. Figueroa is from Weslaco, Texas. Lipinets is from Kazakhstan, but he lives in the neighborhood in which I grew up, Woodland Hills, California.
Okay. I like what I'm hearing in terms of dimensions of both fighters. It looks pretty evenly matched. Now, that said, Adrian Broner was the original opponent for Omar Figueroa. Broner pulled out for personal reasons, and Sergey Lipinets stepped in. A lot of people feel as if Lipinets may be an even tougher opponent for Figueroa. What's your take on that?
I think you can argue that. Broner was a special fighter, but he hasn't been at the top of his game for, I would say, at least 5 years. I think he was a question mark going into this fight. Lipinets was stopped by Ennis, as I said. Who wouldn't be stopped by Ennis? But he's been pretty solid, consistently solid. He looked pretty good in a draw with Custio Clayton before the Ennis fight, for example. Lipinets is a tough, experienced guy. He's a tough out for anybody not named Jaron Ennis.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the X factors we need to look out for?
Well, I think we know what Lipinets is going to bring. He's a tough guy who's going to come, tough guy who's going to come after you. Figueroa is harder to gauge. He has a lot of ability, but he didn't look like himself in his last fight, that loss to Abel Ramos. Will he look like that again, or will he recapture what he once had? He's had to deal with some mental health issues by his own admission, but he seems to be in a good place now. So we'll see. Those are a couple of things to watch for.
Yeah, definitely. And with that in mind, how do you see the fight playing out?
Well, I think Lipinets is going to go after Figueroa from the outset, and Figueroa is going to try to use his skill set to try to thwart his opponent's attack. I see Figueroa jabbing, countering, moving as Lipinets comes forward. In the end, I think Lipinets' aggression is going to pay off, as I see him cutting off the ring, and outworking Figueroa most of the fight. So I think Lipinets is going to win unanimous decision or a late stoppage in a competitive fight, but I think he's going to get a clear victory.
Yeah, I like Lipinets by decision here as well. I mean, I see a lot of exchanges taking place here, given the makeup of both guys, but I think that Lipinets hits a little bit harder, is a little bit better technically. I do think that Figueroa is going to be on his game. We're going to see a Figueroa, the best Figueroa he can possibly be. I'm not sure that is enough to beat the dangerous Lipinets. Now, in the co-feature, undefeated Dominican technician Alberto Puello takes on Batir Akhmedov for the vacant WBA Super Lightweight Championship. What can you tell us about Puello?
So I'm basing this mainly on his last fight against Vashon Owens, which was Puello's first fight outside his native Dominican Republic. He's a really skillful, clever southpaw, which is bad news for most guys that he could face. He doesn't have a ton of punching power, but he definitely knows what he's doing. His problem, if that's what it is that Akhmedov is a pretty big step up in opposition. So we'll see what Puello has at this level.
What about Akhmedov, though? What are his strengths and his weaknesses?
I see him as a good, skillful technician. He was a 2006 Olympian, so he has that strong foundation. He's responsibly aggressive, if you will. He has power. He's also a southpaw. I think I like this guy a lot. He only has 10 pro fights, which isn't a lot, but he doesn't fight like it. He sort of has a mature manner, or he carries himself in a mature way, when he fights. He fought Mario Barrios on even terms in his only loss, and then rebounded to stop Ray Perez and Argenis Mendez. So he's got a lot going for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I love his style. I love the way he fights, the aggressive nature, really skillful. That Barrios fight was an all-out war. Style-wise, what does each have to do in order to win?
I think Puello needs to keep his focus, not engage Akhmedov unnecessarily. He should stick and move from the beginning, pick his spots. And I think if he does that, he has a chance to win. Akhmedov needs to cut off the ring and go to the body to slow Puello down. I think that's when he could do his best work when he does that. I'll add this, though. I think Akhmedov can box pretty much as well as Puello if he wanted to go that direction, but I don't think he will.
Oh, man. You got me. I got to know what your pick is. You got me wondering now.
I think Akhmedov is the better all-around fighter. I think he'll find ways to get to Puello and win rounds, although it's not going to be easy. I think this is a good competitive fight. But I'm going to say Akhmedov by a late stoppage.
Ooh, I love the pick. I am going with Alberto Puello to take this one. I think that he's going to land enough counterpunches, box, and move and put a hurting on Akhmedov a little bit and win a close decision here. Honestly, this is a 50-50 fight. I feel like this fight could steal the show. It's just a great matchup of styles, two hungry guys, and I can't wait to see it unfold. Now, the card kicks off with WBA super featherweight champion Roger Gutierrez defending his title against the rising unbeaten Dominican Hector Garcia. Let's start with the champ, Mike. Assess Gutierrez for us.
I think Gutierrez is a good all-around offense-minded boxer who also has punching power. He's got a lot of good tools. More than that, I love his determination. He was stopped by Rene Alvarado in the first of their three entertaining fights, but he bounced back to outpoint Alvarado in fights 2 and 3. He lost back-to-back fights to Hector Tanajara and Oscar Duarte in 2018, but he battled back to become a 130-pound title holder. So I like his combination of ability, experience, and grit.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the more underrated champions in the game today, in my opinion. What about Hector Garcia? We saw what he did against Chris Colbert earlier this year in February with the huge upset win. Assess him for us.
Yeah, he showed us all we need to see in that fight against Colbert. He used a combination of skill and what I call controlled aggression to walk down one of the best boxers in the business, landing hard combinations and winning a wide decision. This guy can box, he can punch, he can take a punch. He's really fierce, which I love. He seems to have all the tools necessary to become a title holder. I was just blown away by his performance in that fight.
Yeah, so was I. I mean, very, very impressive performance. We had Colbert on the podcast, was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago? And, he was pretty differential. Obviously wants the rematch, but gave respect where respect is due. What are the keys to victory for both?
I think Gutierrez is going to try to keep Garcia on the outside with his jab and sort of try to pick him apart. I don't think he wants Garcia to get inside much. That wouldn't work to his advantage. I think Garcia can have success if he keeps Garcia where he wants him. Garcia is going to, do his thing. He's going to march forward and pound away. Gutierrez is going to have a rough time if Garcia gets close to him consistently. That could be the key for Garcia.
Yeah, certainly. How do you see the fight playing out? What's your pick?
This is really hard. I actually leaned one way and ended up going the other way, which is good. Like, we have two fights that are, like you said, are essentially 50-50. I think both of these guys are going to have success in this fight, which should make for an entertaining matchup. The difference between Colbert and Gutierrez is Gutierrez's punching power. I think that Gutierrez is going to land hard shots that will slow down Garcia and maybe throw him off to some degree, meaning he won't dominate. I don't see Garcia dominating Gutierrez like he dominated Colbert, and that's going to make for a great fight. Prediction? You want a prediction?
Yeah.
I actually was leaning toward Gutierrez at the beginning, and then I ended up going the other way. I'm going to go with my gut and pick Garcia. He just looked tremendous against Colbert, sort of like a star in the making, if you will. I got to say Garcia by close decision in a good competitive fight.
I like Garcia by very close decision here too, for the reasons you just listed. I feel like he's riding the wave right now. He's on fire, but it's a shaky pick. I could easily see Gutierrez stopping.
Gutierrez is good.
Garcia, yeah. This is this fight could go either way. I think either Gutierrez stops him or Garcia wins a decision. I'm leaning toward Garcia. Doing enough here to win the decision, but I wouldn't bet on it. I'll put it to you like that. Now, also this weekend, we've got the rematch. Unified heavyweight champ Alexander Usyk taking on Anthony Joshua. Obviously, we know what happened the first time when Usyk won a close, competitive, but clear decision over the incumbent Joshua to become the unified champion. What was your take on that first encounter?
Well, I'm sure there were a lot of people who picked Usyk to beat Joshua, but I wasn't one of them. I was surprised at the outcome. I thought Usyk was the more talented guy, but Joshua was a talented guy too, and significantly bigger, stronger guy than Usyk. Turned out that Usyk was, significantly better boxer than Joshua, and also more determined, I think. He's a fighter through and through, this guy. I'm not 100% convinced that Joshua is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought that Joshua boxed really, really well in the first fight, and it was competitive throughout most of the bout. But then, that last quarter of the fight, Usyk sort of pulled away. And I don't think he necessarily pulled away just by outboxing him. I hate to say this, but I almost felt like he had more dog, in him.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying.
Yeah, in that fight. So, I completely agree with you. What is at stake for each fighter on Saturday?
Well, for Joshua, the fight could determine whether he's remembered as a good heavyweight champion or something, more than that. If he wins, he's back on top, essentially. If he loses, he might be done. Yeah. And Usyk has a chance to prove that the win in the first fight was no fluke. If he wins, he leaves no doubt that he's a bona fide heavyweight star. If he loses, people might say, well, he was a one-hit wonder at heavyweight, whether that's fair or not. So there's a lot at stake for him, too. So there's a lot at stake for both guys.
No, Joshua's made some changes in his corner. Robert Garcia, Angel Fernandez has been there for a while, but he's also taken the lead as well. What were your thoughts when you heard about Garcia becoming part of his team?
Well, I'm a little biased because I've known Robert since he was a fighter. I covered him when he was a fighter, so I've known him for a long time. But I do like the choice of him as Joshua's trainer. I think Joshua needs to assert himself in this fight, to use his size and strength advantages. And that's the kind of thing that Garcia teaches, offensive boxing. Plus, I think Garcia is really good in the corner during the fight. If things aren't going well, I think he's going to say the right things. And I think that's exactly what Joshua needs. So I think it's a good pairing.
Yeah, absolutely. Joshua was saying that his corner was telling him he was winning during that first fight, and that's when in fact wasn't. So I don't think that Robert Garcia is going to be doing that. The word is that Joshua looks leaner and Usyk has bulked up. I don't know how true that is, but if it is true, how will that affect the fight, in your opinion?
Yeah, I'm glad you said you're not sure, because I doubt their weights will be much different. But if they are, I'd say both guys are doing the wrong thing. Again, Joshua needs the size. That's his advantage. And Usyk is big enough to do what he does, which is to outthink and outbox his opponents. I guess a few extra pounds wouldn't hurt Usyk, but he's certainly, I hope he didn't put on too much weight, because I think that'll just slow him down more than anything else.
Yeah, you don't want to be a sitting target, and
right.
Why give away your advantage? Him being spry, having that hand speed and foot speed is what made the difference in the first fight. How do you see the fight playing out?
So I do think Joshua will be a little bit more aggressive, as I suggested. I don't think it'll make much difference, though. Usyk is just too much better than he is. I'm not saying you were right. I think it wasn't like he completely blew him out in the first fight, but I think he was clearly better, and I don't think that's going to change in this fight. I think that Usyk's going to adjust to what Joshua was doing. He's going to outbox him again. I think he's going to win again. A friend also mentioned an interesting possibility. If Joshua is more aggressive, he might put himself in danger. I think there's a chance he could get knocked out by Usyk. I give Joshua a shot in this fight, but I got to go with the Ukrainian. I think Usyk's going to win another unanimous decision.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth with this one. I feel like if Joshua had gone to the body more in the first fight, he could have changed the outcome. I don't know if he will do that in this rematch. I just don't know when it comes to Anthony Joshua. I don't know what fighter will show up. If he wins, it's going to be a great victory, but I'm just going to have to hold the loss if he wins. I'm going with Alexander Usyk to repeat in a much closer fight this time, where potentially both men touch the canvas. Now, just a reminder, well ahead of Mike in the prediction league. Okay, only one game.
Might be two next week. Hopefully not.
Let's see. It should be interesting. So we'll see how that unfolds. But let's bring in our guest this week. He is one of the greatest knockout artists in the history of boxing, a sports superstar, and the former WBC heavyweight champion of the world. The game has been waiting for this man's return, and he's here to tell us all about it. The Bronze Bomber, Deontay Wilder. Deontay, we are so glad to know you're getting back in the ring. So first things first, welcome back.
I appreciate it a lot. I've been enjoying myself being outside of the ring. Dealing with my family and my kids and loved ones. So it was a hard decision. I'm coming back, what I should do, or what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? Now I'm here. I knew that I had to go back to see the emotions of the people that was around me, to see grown men cry in front of their children, and to show them that someone that symbolizes and represents them and stands for greatness, as they can be great too, motivate and inspired to be great too. So I just knew then, right then and there, I knew I had to come back, because I motivate so many, I inspire so many around the world, and I got a little bit more to give until I just say I'm really done. So here I am.
There was some talk of you possibly retiring, but so when you had that statue unveiling, that's when you were like, when you saw all those people, I mean, I saw it on social media, you were like, man, I got to come back.
Yeah, I knew it then. Like I said, just to see certain people, just to see the people come up, men and women, showing their gratitude to me, and just getting emotional, and showing their kids how greatness is supposed to look like, and to see that, especially when you see men break down, because we sometimes can be the toughest people to try to break down in front of other men or other women. But when you do have that vulnerable side, that sensitive side of you, you don't care who's looking. You know what I mean? Because you mean this from the heart and you want your children to understand what's going on. Things come out of you, and that came out, and I saw it, and not only did I see it, but I felt it. And I just knew immediately, I had to have a conversation with my children. And I tell them that Daddy's sorry, but he got to go back. We can't just, I've done it, I'm going to continue to do it for them all the way through, 100%. I got their life set and straight, but it's more people out there need motivation. They need strength. They need inspiring. And they lean towards me. I have a lot of people that calls me. I have a lot of people that, look for my advice and words of wisdom to get them through certain things. So it wasn't a hard decision.
During the time off, how much boxing did you watch? Did you keep up with the sport?
I didn't at all.
Okay, you really took time off then.
My wife, she goes to the fights and she watches way more than I. When I'm away, and it's just like when I fight, I'm away. I go MIA on purpose. I got so much other stuff going on. I'm a Renaissance man, so I do more than just boxing. I'm more than just an athlete. And time and time again, I present that and shows that. And sometimes I have to take myself away from it to focus on other things, and that's what I do. So I haven't been keeping up with anything, to be honest.
Got it. How excited are you to be back at Barclays Center, where we've witnessed some incredible moments, knockouts, comebacks, fights, just amazing things that you were part of?
I'm very excited. I call it going back home, because that's where I've had some of my most electrifying knockouts for sure. And I'm looking forward to continue to add into that. I'm still up in the back wall, posted up as a mural back there, and I want to continue to keep that alive. So I'm very excited coming back to Brooklyn and continuing presenting my greatness amongst the world.
Now, before we get into more boxing talk, I did want to ask you your single that you released, which was great, by the way. It seemed like there was a sort of either Afro beats or hip life kind of inspiration to that song, or where did it come from? Because that's an international kind of sound.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely Afro beat, and I'm into the Afro beats. I love the Afro beat. I think Afro beats is something that's easy. Well, I can speak for self. It's easy to write to because it gets you in the groove. It gets you in the move of things, and I knew the summer was coming, and I wanted to play some jams. I knew what I wanted to hear, and I knew how I wanted to feel. And many artists out here that makes great music, but when you can do it yourself, when you know exactly how you want it and what you want to feel and hear, why not go out and take a leap of faith and do it on your own? We've been into music because I'm a producer as well. Not only I write and sing it, but I produce it as well, when I have the time to. So I'm into a lot of different things that people would never have known that I would be into. And I'm just showing certain sides of me because I had the time, and I still do as well now. So I will be continuing on with the music scene as well as boxing. And as well as everything else I got going on. It's not going to stop anything for what I've got going. Continue to keep that going. We just got to work a little bit more harder and smarter.
Now, your opponent, Robert Helenius, he's no stranger to you. He was your sparring partner in the past. What's your assessment of Helenius as a fighter?
I think he's a great fighter. He's very long, and he can be patient at times. And he got a heart of gold. He got a heart of gold. He's not going to give up. He got a military background, so He know how to fight and keep it going. He's not going to give up. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be an interesting fight for me and Robert. You know, we know each other in the ring, and we know what we're both capable of doing. So I'm going to have to come out with something different, something he's never seen before, and bring it to him that way. As well as he's probably thinking the same thing. He's going to have to do the same thing for me. Why don't you go and so it's going to be an interesting fight while it lasts. I'm looking for a great challenge out of him. I think a lot of people are going to get their money worth. They're going to get a great show of my comeback fight. So, and he's been doing great. You know, he's on a winning streak right now, and he got to feel good about that, and he got to feel very confident in himself about that. So I'm excited for it, and I'm excited to be going to Brooklyn for this one. So, you know, long live boxing.
I heard Roy Jones once say that facing your sparring partner can be difficult because they know all your moves. Would you agree with that?
Most definitely. I totally agree with that. You know, especially if they came around years and years, you know, in different camps of yours, and have trained side by side. You know, Robert have been, you know, to my house and everything. So we're pretty cool, man. I'm pretty cool with Robert and his trainer Elvis. So and all the team is pretty cool with them as well. So this is not going to be a fight where you got two enemies against each other, animosity going against each other, and we want to snatch each other's throats from our necks. You know, this is coming two gentlemen, you know, fighting for victory, fighting for that number one spot, you know, and fighting for our families and so much more. You know, so it's going to be great. You know, it's all going to be about who's going to be the smartest, the fastest, and hit the hardest. And I'm just looking forward to getting in the ring with him, competing against him on this level, and being able to, you know, make some money from it. This time around, I usually pay him, but this time I'll be able to gain some money this time.
Got it. Deontay, you're coming off a historic trilogy with Tyson Fury and an incredible warrior performance in that third fight. You've had some time to reflect. Give us your thoughts on those fights and that rivalry.
I mean, it was a good fight while it lasts. I hope everybody, you know, take it down and remember the events that happened in boxing. You know, it was a great time, and you know, fighters, we risk our lives for others' entertainment. And that night, you know, it was a lot of entertainment. So I hope everybody took away from it, that they'll remember certain things. And, you know, like I said, here we go again.
I'm glad you mentioned that you focused on the last fight. The result wasn't what you wanted in the third fight, but I think you gained a tremendous amount of respect. I think even love from fans for your epic effort. Could you feel that love?
Yeah, I did. In such ways that you don't understand why certain things has to be done to reach a certain point, to receive certain things. But, you know, I pay no mind to a lot of things. I continue to do what I got to do. Like I said, I know I'm great. We all are great. For greatness is only determined by service. And I apply that each and every time. So, you know, if we are again to do it all over again and to lead in this reign. You know, I have 3, maybe 4 years left that I want to do this, and I'm completely done after this. I'll be completely done. You know, I've done great with my finances. I make more money outside the ring than inside the ring. You know, and to even get in the ring, I have to have a certain minimum to even get in the ring because of how I've done and how I've operated myself, how I've structured myself outside of the ring as a businessman. And so when I come in, I don't really need much. I don't really need too many, middlemen and stuff like that. Many times I tried to lead other fighters and tell certain people about certain things, but many people laughed and thought I was maybe dumb because I'm from the South or whatever. But, you know, at the end of the day, the laugh and the joke is on them. And while I sit back and my family sit back, reap the rewards and the benefit that I've had to slave over and sacrifice and do so. So now the tables have completely turned. And And it feels good. It feels good to be able to make a decision of what you want to do and when you want to do it. And you don't have to, I'm not coming back to this sport because I need it. And it's a great feeling to be on the opposite side, because most time fighters ran out of money or whatever and they needed to come back. It's not the story with Deontay Wilder.
Beautiful.
Very, very good. For your last bout, we saw Malik Scott in your corner, also Don House. Can we expect the band to get back together for October 15?
Most definitely. Even more happier and stronger than ever. I'm always looking forward to when we meet up again. We always talking, we always doing different things and going places, but it's just something special when everybody combines together and put their minds together, to train, to compete on that one special night for victory. Everybody looking for VICTORY. And it's all about the strategizing of the teams and coming together, because, we know boxing is an individual business, but it takes a team effort. And, so I love my brothers, and we're looking forward to the challenge October the 15th at Brooklyn at the Barclays Center. So I hope everybody's excited that the King has returned, and looking forward to many more great fights and knockouts.
Another big heavyweight fight taking place this weekend, the rematch between Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the first fight, but what do you think happens in the rematch?
My honest opinion is all going to depend on the fighters. It's a lot of time than past two guys. It's a lot of time that has been given to strategize for the second time around. They say when you fight a person to know them a little bit better the second time, it's even a little bit more the third. So, it's all going to be up on those guys. I could easily, my heart says, Usyk easily, he got the momentum now and how he was able to do it the last time around. But, this is boxing at the end of the day, and you just never know how it's going to end up panned out until the end of it. So, I just, at the end of the day, I wish them all the best of luck, and I hope they get out of the ring just like they came in, safe and sound.
Man. Now, September 4th, another heavyweight fight, Andy Ruiz, Luis Ortiz. These are two fighters you know well, especially Ortiz. Based on their recent performances, how do you see that fight playing out?
Well, even without seeing the last performance, my money and heart is going on Ortiz. It's just unfortunate that he have had lesser opportunities because guys fear him for his skills.
Yeah.
And his will, his hard work. See, people got to understand the heart operates and runs everything. It's not the mind. Although the mind is a terrible thing to waste and to lose, but the heart overcomes and operates it all, because your mind may tell you to give up and quit, but sometimes your heart just won't let you. And with that being said, Ortiz got a big heart, and he's determined and motivated to prove even more and to provide for his family. Most of all for him, he does it for his family, and I love a man that's able to sit self aside, for selfish ways of thinking. And when you do it for family, it makes you even more of a stronger person, because you don't want to let those people that you're doing it for down. And by me and him fighting twice, we have built a brotherhood, a very strong relationship with each other. And it's been amazing. It's amazing what boxing can do, to two different individuals. They can either make you enemies or they can make you love each other. And with him, it made us love each other even more, came close with each other even more. And it's an amazing feeling. So I'm always root for him, no matter who he fights or where he goes. But I'm also a realist as well. And with this fight, I do see him, Ortiz, winning this fight in devastating fashion and controlling the fight.
Ooh.
A lot of people look at his age and stuff, but age only goes so far. It only defines a person so far. Because if we looked at age, just imagine if we didn't know how old we were. How would you feel? How would you feel if we didn't keep up with age? and all that. People always want to say age, but it's only a number. That's it. And so I'm looking forward to him doing great things. And if he continues to do great things, you might see Ortiz and Wilder and Ortiz 3. So,
Wow.
so let's go, Lewis.
So Ruiz says he'd like to fight you, assuming he wins the fight. Is that a fight you'd be interested in?
Almost definitely. I mean, I think Wilder versus Ortiz 3. I don't think nobody would deny that. You know what I mean? Both fights was a great fight. Although, it ended in my favor. But, as time goes on, you get smarter and wiser. The only way you become wise if you apply knowledge to life. That's the only way you become wise, or you'll be considered an old fool. And I know a couple of those people, but with Ortiz, he's a very smart guy. And to fight me for a third time, he know what he'll be up against. And so that'll make his training and his strategy a little bit more better for him. So I think that'll be an interesting fight, to entertain. So we'll see what happens, And the great thing about it is Deontay Wilder is back, so boxing don't have to be boring and dead no more. The team is back, and hopefully we can make even more greater memories than we've already made.
What if Andy Ruiz wins that fight? Would you like to face him too?
Most definitely. I would love to face him as well. He's in the stable, so so if he wins, then he can. It ain't no if. It's just a matter of when.
Okay.
With all these guys, any of these guys in the stable, there ain't no if we fight. It's just a matter of when. If you're in this business, as you're in this business to be great and make money, and we all have to fight each other. That's just the bottom line of things. It comes. I understand that you have to promote and build the fight and stuff like that, but sometimes you can overdo things, and that's what hinders boxing at times, or make us look, bad. When you're dealing with certain people should fight because they always trying to promote or build it to a certain point and then fight. It shouldn't be like that. So, for me, when you're ready, I'm ready to go. I'm in the business of blessing, giving the fans what they want to see, great fights while we're in our prime, so we can do it. Because the inevitable follows us every day. We don't know what's going to happen the next day or the next day after that. There's too many greedy people in the business. They always in there. There's so many people that look for their interest instead of the fighter's interest. And that's another thing that hurts us as well. You got too many crooks in the business. And instead of just letting these fighters fight, because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, the fighters are the products. They're the product. They the one that should be deciding and making moves because they're risking their lives. They're using their body, not anyone else. And the head is not meant to be hit in the first place. So who is anyone to dictate or say, oh, you should do this, or just because you got the money you promoting, that makes it right? When your ass can be 105 years old and still making millions while this broke fighter that enriched his life years and years don't have nothing to show for, can't even pay the medical bills, can't even pay their rent and stuff. It's so backwards. I can go on and on about that, but it ain't the time and the place. So I'll leave you with that.
Do you ever reflect on how far you've come?
All the time. I reflect on it all the time. You'll never forget where you came from, especially if it's a place, a rural place, and you had to fight out of poverty. You had to fight out different things. You'll never forget that. Now if I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, there's certain things I forget because I didn't earn nothing. I didn't, it was given. When it's given to you, you don't appreciate. You don't know what it takes to get to a certain level or point. All you know is receiving. So it wasn't never easy for me, ever, ever, ever. So it allowed me to appreciate where I came from, and I'll never forget it. That's how so many people can adapt and look up to me and relate to me, because we have more hardship in this country than anybody having good ship or happy of being around here. Everybody, you know what I'm talking about. I ain't got to go on. You know exactly where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I'll never forget where I came from. It's motivation to motivate and inspire everyone that's trying to come out of a situation and be great. And like I said, we all have greatness in us. But greatness is only determined by service. So you must apply service in life to get to anywhere you're going. I never seen a man work his ass off and ended up nowhere. You know.
That's right.
So,
what is the source of motivation for you right now for the Helenius fight?
The most, I mean, just me fighting Robert, just being here in general, being back in the business period when ones don't have to. And I'm very proud of that. Y'all might hear me saying that throughout my career, remaining career, that I don't have to be. I'm blessed. I make more money outside. Do you understand when I make more money outside of the ring than in? So with that being said, you gotta give me a minimum just to even step in this ring. You ain't got guys that got silver spoons or have money, trying to get into the business of boxing. For what? Why? I don't work my butt off to get to this point, and I'm here, and it feels great. It feels great, but due to my heart and my love for others, it allows me to say, hey, I put myself aside because I'm not selfish. I put my family aside because I'm not selfish. Although I have to confine into them and get their opinions about things. I got all my children up. I said, Daddy, about to go back. Well, how y'all feel about that? Because we've been having so much fun, been traveling the world. We've been on our private jets and all that good little stuff, and I wanted to see what my children thought of it, how they felt, because it's very important to me how they feel and what they think, and they all want to see me, Daddy, come back. I wouldn't say I was surprised and nothing like that, but, my children are very intelligent and very smart. They've been brought up and raised into this, and they said they want to see more action of Daddy, the greatest fighter in the world, the best dad in the world. So, I'm looking forward to coming back, and I've got the blessings from my family, and that's all I need. That's all I need. So now I'm ready to inspire and motivate even more so than ever. You're looking at a guy that has it all, man. And I smile as I say that, because so many people they limitize me, because of the perspective of what they may see or what they may know. But nobody really knows Deontay Wilder unless you got a close relationship with him. Because the saying with me is, to know me is to love me, And like I said, I'm a Renaissance man. I do many things in this world that what people think. When they come to me, many people have narrow mindset, a small mindset. But God is good. So I'm looking forward to the return. I'm looking forward to the Barclays Center come October the 15th against Robert Helenius. And all my Bombzquad people, what it is, stand up. We're back. We're back. Something to be excited about, something to hurrah about, and go tell a friend. Tell a friend.
Man, Deontay, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us as always. We appreciate it. We can't wait to see you back in the ring. Can't wait to see what you do next, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. In due time, baby. Until then.
Labor Day weekend. Andy the Destroyer Ruiz Jr. headlines an epic night of fights.
This is a man that wants it.
The former champ squares off against Luis King Kong Ortiz.
King Kong!
In a highly anticipated all-out heavyweight brawl.
Wow!
And don't miss Mexican phenom Isaac Pitbull Cruz as he battles Eduardo Ramirez. Plus the return of Abner Mares and much more.
It's time for Mike and I to go toe-to-toe, and this week the topic is the top 5 heavyweight bouts in the 21st century of the 21st century. whatever you want to call it. You know what we're talking about. As Mike mentioned last week when we had a similar topic, this will include the year 2000. So, Mike, I will let you kick this off. Obviously, we're going in ascending order. This is our list, actually. One list that we come up with. That we came up with. We discussed this earlier and pretty much had the exact same fight. So it's just a matter of choosing the order here. And I think we came up with a good list, Mike.
Yeah, I just want to preface this really quick by saying that I was actually kind of amazed that we ended up with the same fights. We're talking 2 decades.
Yeah.
But obviously these are the fights that stood out to us. So number 5 is Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz 1 in 2018. I don't know whether this fight would have made the list except for a crazy round 7. Excuse me. Wilder had put, if you remember, Wilder had put Ortiz down in round 5 and looked like he was taking control in the next couple rounds. Then late in round 7, Ortiz hurt Wilder with a right-left combination and then followed with a series of hard shots that had Wilder hanging on for dear life until the bell saved him. I think if he would have had any more time, history would have been completely different. I remember thinking, oh, man, he's done. Well, of course, he wasn't done. The next few rounds did go back and forth. Then in the 10th and final round, Wilder's power decided the fight. He put Ortiz down twice, and the fight was stopped. It was an epic encounter in which Wilder demonstrated that he was one tough hombre.
Yeah, I mean, that was the toughest opponent of his career. Ortiz at the man was at the time the boogeyman of the heavyweight division, and it was a surprise when Deontay Wilder took that fight. And who knew what we were going to witness? I've spoken about this fight ad nauseum on here. I mean, I couldn't get a taxi leaving the Barclays that night because folks stayed, out until 3 a.m, 4 a.m, just hanging out, talking about that fight outside of the venue. It was that amazing. And, I'll never forget after he was not dropped, but badly hurt in that 7th round. And then the 8th round, you could see him, getting himself back together. And in the 9th round, the crowd just chanting his name. You could sense what was coming, and it actually occurred. What a great fight. One of my favorite fights in heavyweight history, and also one of the best experiences being at a fight. Let's go to number 4, another fantastic fight. June 21st, 2003, Lennox Lewis versus Vitaly Klitschko. Lewis, the longtime champion, taking on the undefeated Klitschko, who took the bout on short notice after original opponent Kirk Johnson pulled out with an injury. And boy, did Klitschko. He wasn't undefeated, was he? I think he had that loss to Chris Bird coming in, but that fight where he separated his shoulder in the 11th. But man, a lot of people question Klitschko's toughness going into the fight. Those people were wrong. He gave Lewis fits throughout the fight. Ultimately Lewis found his range and was able to bust him up. Bad cut over his eye, which ultimately ended the fight. There were a lot of calls for a rematch afterward, and rightfully so. However, Lewis, perhaps sensing that he had seen his better days were well behind him, decided to hang them up. But both of them left us a lasting memory that night.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be at that fight in what was then Staples Center in Los Angeles. I'd become so, like with everybody else, I'd become so accustomed to seeing Lewis dominate opponent after opponent. So it was a shock to see Klitschko fight him on what I thought was essentially even terms in what became a dramatic back and forth war.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, sadly, the fight lasted only 6 rounds because Klitschko suffered one of the most gruesome cuts that I've ever seen. Really, that was a crazy cut. Which put a premature end to a barn burner. Lewis, was done after that. And Klitschko proved to me in that fight that he was the real deal. He left no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, he would go on to have his own title reign. Let's go on to number 3. What you got?
So number 3 involves another Klitschko, Vladimir Klitschko against Anthony Joshua. This was sort of a passing of the torch fight from a great champion, giving it one more go, and a young lion who seemed destined for greatness at that time. Klitschko didn't go quietly. He went down in the 5th round, put Joshua down in a stunning moment in the 6th round, and then Joshua took control after that. He put Klitschko down twice more in round 11, and the fight was stopped. That was arguably Joshua's greatest moment in his professional career, and Klitschko who was far from a brawler, went out on his shield. And I was really proud of the effort that Klitschko gave in that fight. That was really something to watch.
Yeah, it really was. I remember, when the fight was made, I was like, man, this guy's 41, hasn't fought in 17 months. What are we expecting here? And boy, was I wrong. I mean, he was marvelous. I remember the first 4 or 5 rounds, like he would start off each round with like this right hand that would just miss Joshua. And I'm like, what is he doing there? What's he doing with that? And then that 6th round, boom, it exploded on Joshua's jaw. As after Klitschko was down in round 5, it's crazy. And Deontay mentioned this when we spoke to him, that some great fighters don't get that sort of respect until they suffer a loss. Not just Fury Wilder 3, but Holyfield versus Riddick Bowe. The first fight comes to mind, and I feel like this was the case for Vladimir Klitschko. We're talking about a guy who dominated the division for a decade, but never really got the respect I feel like he deserved. But after this fight against Anthony Joshua, I mean, there was no questioning. What more could you say about him? If you thought he didn't have heart, if you thought he didn't have guts, he proved you wrong on that night. So certainly one of my favorite fights as well. Let's go to number 2, and it is Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz, June 1st, 2019 at Madison Square Garden. Ruiz, as much as a 25-1 underdog against Joshua. Ruiz was a late replacement for Dirrell Miller, and very few people gave him a chance. I actually picked Joshua to knock out Ruiz, but I regretted it because I tell you what, I remember Ruiz fighting just a couple months earlier in April against Demetrico, and watching him, and he landed this right hand that was the beginning of the end for Demetrico. And I remember thinking, geez, if he were to land that shot on any heavyweight, they would be out. And that was really impressive. The way he delivered it, the hand speed, everything. I was blown away. And so when he signed to fight Joshua, I was like, man, he could pull this off. And indeed he did. I mean, what a fight. Ruiz down in the 3rd round, gets up to floor Joshua twice in that round and eventually stop him in the 7th round. After that, I mean, Ruiz was an overnight celebrity, talk shows, social media. He was everywhere. And we won't get into the rematch. This was a great night for Andy Ruiz.
Right. I can't think of a more dramatic fight at any weight over the past 2 decades.
Yeah.
The 3rd round was one of the greatest rounds of all time, as far as I'm concerned. Ruiz got up from that knockdown. He hurt Joshua with, I think it was a left to the temple, put him down twice in the same frame. And Joshua was just in a fog the rest of the fight. And he finally, from my perspective, he kind of just gave up in round 7. Things just got too hairy for him, and he gave up. Dramatic stuff. And I'll never forget Ruiz jumping up and down in the ring afterward. What a moment that was.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he turned the heavyweight division upside down. Let's go to number 1, Mike. I mean, it's probably number 1 on a lot of people's list. So take it away.
Yeah, Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3 last year. I really believe this was the best of the lot. Given the backdrop and what occurred in the ring. I thought Wilder was toast after their second meeting, which Fury dominated them and stopped him in round 7. Well, Wilder fooled me and I guess a lot of other people. He got up from a knockdown in round 3 to put Fury down twice in round 4. At which point I remember thinking, holy crap, he's going to turn the tables on Fury. Like, this is one of the greatest, rematches. Well, actually, it's not a rematch. You know what I'm saying? This is one of the greatest turning of the tables, if you will, that I've ever seen in my life. That didn't happen, obviously. Fury knocked him down in rounds 10 and 11 and stopped him in 11. But they both absolutely fought their hearts out in what became a heavyweight classic. So I think both guys left the ring with more respect than they had when they walked into it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching the ebb and flow, and I feel like it took years off of my life just watching it from ringside. It was a spectacular fight. The 3rd round, when Wilder goes down, you're like, this looks like a repeat of the second fight, right. But it sure wasn't. We saw what happened in the 4th round when Deontay dropped him twice, and then sort of back and forth a little bit. Then Fury took over, but then in the 10th round, he was hurt again by a Wilder uppercut, or what's the 9th round? And you thought what was going to happen? Of course, he scored those 2 knockdowns over those last 2 rounds to pull away. But it was an incredible performance again, where really there were no losers on this night. Not to take anything away from Mr. Fury, who won the trilogy, but I feel like this fight elevated Deontay Wilder as well, where there was no doubting his heart, his spirit, and the courage he showed that night was just unbelievable. I can't wait to see him back in the ring, of course. And I want to thank you all for joining us, because that is going to do it for this week's show. We also want to thank Deontay Wilder for stopping by. And don't forget, folks, Saturday night, PBC on Showtime returns with Omar Figueroa versus Sergey Lipinets in a world title eliminator, plus 2 world title fights on the undercard. We'll be sure to break it down when we come back next week for more boxing talk right here on the PBC Podcast.